The arpeggiations in Ferling Etudes form clear chord progressions. Number 12 is a good example of this. So take a pencil, take your Ferling Etude book, and measure by measure, let's write in the chords for each section. So with your pencil, you can write D minor over measures 1 through 4. Then the chord changes. In measures 5 through 7, we see the A major chord. Then there's a transitionary measure, which could be interpreted in a couple different ways. Then measure 9, we clearly see F sharp diminished and G minor outlined in that measure. After the F sharp diminished and G minor in measure 9, we see C sharp diminished and D minor in measure 10. Then in measure 11, we see another transitionary measure. Measure 12 is D minor again. In measure 13 and 14, we see regular F major throughout this passage with a couple leading tones. Measure 15 and 16 is clearly C major, which transitions to C sharp diminished for a brief moment before moving into that chromatic scale, which starts on the D, and then the B flat. Then, after these chromatic scales, in measure 20, we see D minor again. And in measure 21, we see C sharp diminished, which leads us all the way to D major again in measure 24. So that C sharp diminished lasts for a while there. Then instead of D minor, we're in D major at measure 24, which is followed by G minor in measure 25, and then B diminished in measure 26. Measure 27 is D minor to C sharp diminished, and then finally to D minor. Now, throughout this etude and many of the Ferling etudes, leading tones consistently precede the chord tones, and they usually resolve by half step. So that happens all throughout. Measure 1 through 4 in the D minor, measure 5 through 7 in the A major, and many other places. We also see an interesting moment of surround notes or enclosures, which is used in measure 27 to imply the D minor chord. And this D minor chord kind of foreshadows the conclusion of the etude, which is also D minor. So what is an enclosure or a surround note? If we have a chord tone, say F in the D minor chord, we would play E, G, F. So the chord tone is F, but we play one note below, one note above, and then a note. And we see that also in measure 27, we see that with the E, G, F and the C sharp, E, D. So knowing, understanding, and practicing surround notes or enclosures will benefit the jazz player and their improvisational ability. And really it will benefit any player to notice where things are leading and what they're leading to. Next, I would like to discuss how to avoid unintended accents on the second 16th note of the descending arpeggios in line 3, measures 3 through 4. Keep your fingers close to the keys and keep your palms close to the palm keys whenever possible. This will reduce the distance between your fingers and palms and the keys. The less distance, you won't have to move as fast and you won't move as hard, and you'll avoid tension. Number 2, keep your tongue closer to the reed so that you don't have to move the tongue a long distance, thereby creating a really hard or abrasive tongue. Try to tongue the notes lightly. And when you practice, make sure that you can get up to these high notes with a slur so that your air pressure, your embouchure, your voicing, everything else is correct before you add that light tongue. Number 3, play the downbeats of beat 1, 3, 1, and 3 stronger. If you play the downbeat stronger, naturally everything around it is going to sound a little bit lighter. Point number 4, draw a crescendo in measure 2, at the end of measure 2, going into measure 3, into that downbeat, and then continue that, drawing crescendos into the downbeat of each of these arpeggios. As you repeat the process of playing these crescendos, it'll create a natural need to soften the high note, because the high note has to be played soft in order for you to crescendo again. Number 5, memorize the line. This allows you to really listen to yourself, listen to the sound you're producing, and be more aware of what your body is doing and how you feel about it and all the technique that you're trying to include in this passage. It can also help you ease tension. Point number 6, prepare your right palms for RSK3 by moving that up early. Now, point 7, how should we practice this? I think you could practice it in many different ways. 2 ways I'll say for this clinic is, number 1, line 3, measure 2 through 4, just start really slow at 60. And then in your mind, have a checklist of everything that you want to accomplish, feel, and do, and hear as you're playing it. Then, once you have all of that the way you want it at 60, of course, move it up to tempo. But start way under tempo to try to add all these things in. The other thing that you could do is try it almost up to your full tempo, but only do 3 to 5 note cell groups. This, I find, can be effective in just changing your practice session up to just keep things fresh and different for yourself. And now for a performance of Ferling Etude number 12. Thank you.